Good morning. You're all very welcome to this morning's CPD webinar in partnership with IAFA, the Irish Accounting and Finance Association, where we join forces to discuss the skill sets that are required for the modern accountant. You will see the Q&A button on the bottom of your screens, and as all attendees will remain on mute for the duration of the webinar, you're welcome to input your questions here, and the panel will answer them at the end of the session. We will be recording this webinar and will provide you with a link via email after the event. We're delighted to welcome back Dr. Michael Hayden, who, along with being an Assistant Professor of Accounting at Maynooth University, is the current chairperson of IAFA and has kindly agreed to act as moderator for this discussion today. IAFA is an academic organisation with the aim of promoting high-quality research and teaching of accounting, finance and related subjects, including governance and taxation. The association has approximately 250 members, and it hosts a number of activities each year, including the association's annual conference and Doctor Colloquium, an annual teaching and learning day, and in-practice events such as this one today, where the focus is on contemporary issues facing the profession and business more generally. Michael will be joined by a dynamic panel of experts who will be introduced to you shortly. So without further ado, I'll leave you in Michael's capable hands and hope you find the discussion beneficial. Welcome, Michael.
Great. Thank you, Jean, for that introduction, and good morning, everyone. On behalf of IAFA, I would like to welcome you all to this event this morning. IAFA is delighted to partner with CIMA on this event, as our members are acutely aware of the skills required for graduates entering the profession. These skills are constantly evolving, and we are committed to continuously updating and developing our educational programs to equip graduates with the required skill set to become the accounting and finance leaders of tomorrow. Today, you will hear from our panelists who, having first-hand experience in a world where skill sets are constantly evolving. We will discuss the impact this has on the modern accountant from each of their specific perspectives. The first of our panelist members is Kieran Phelan. So good morning, Kieran, and welcome.
Thank you, Michael.
Kieran is the director of CIMA and will provide an overview of the uniqueness of the CIMA syllabus and progression of delivery and learning methods to reflect the current needs of our graduates. Good morning, Kieran.
Thank you, Michael, and good morning, everybody. I would first of all like to start by saying how pleased CIMA are to be involved in this event with IAFA. By way of introduction, as Michael said, I am head of CIMA in Ireland, and I've been with the Institute for 6 years. I'm really proud of the way our dedicated team have sort of pivoted our business model over those years, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. The Chartered Institute of Management Accountants have been operating in Ireland for over 100 years. We have 5,500 members here in Ireland. We are an all-island body, and we have approximately 2,300 students. I'll go into a little bit of detail about that later on. We have a very small dedicated team. There are only 10 of us, and we are part of the UK and Ireland region. However, Ireland is the second largest member market in the CIMA family, so we're not insignificant. Next slide, Jean, please. In 2011, the AICPA, in America, and CIMA entered into a joint venture, and that made us the largest member accountancy body globally. And I think what's important, maybe for your students' perspective, is that our qualification is now recognized globally. Next slide, please. Next slide, Jean, please. Just by way of market share in Ireland, and we don't chase market share, we prefer to look at quality over quantity. But just to put it in perspective, the largest member body and student body are Chartered Accountants Ireland, followed by ACCA. We're in third place, and CPA are just behind us. Next slide, Jean, please. The CIMA qualification, it's possible that to qualify, you'll have had to sit 16 examinations. This will have included 3 case studies. When you finish level 1, you do an operational case study and you get a diploma in management accounting. Level 2, you finish off with a management case study, and that entitles you to an advanced diploma in management accounting. And level 3, then when you finish that with a strategic case study, you then become an ACMA, or as now referred to as a CGMA, ACMA. And sorry, Jean, I think we skipped a slide, but not to worry. You can go on to the next one if that's okay. Okay, at the start of my tenure with CIMA Ireland, we identified a number of challenges that we were incurring. Firstly, we were having difficulty attracting new students, mainly because, one, we have a small market share, we had very limited resources, and our brand, particularly around the campuses of universities and colleges, weren't as well known as our competitors. We also felt that we had no unique selling point. We weren't very different than other offerings out there. We also had a disadvantage that there were no tuition providers providing CIMA courses, so students had nowhere to go for extra support. And our qualification period was open-ended. There was no set time on which you were required to complete the CIMA qualification, and this led to certain revenue challenges for ourselves. Next slide, please. So we decided then that we needed to do something, and we decided to pivot our student offering. And we launched what we saw as a qualification methodology for the 21st century, because we did see that Gen Z are very different. They want everything now, and we were looking at qualification periods for members, for students of 6 years plus. And you know, you get somebody leaving college today and say that you want to be professionally qualified for another 6 or 7 years, just wasn't what people were looking for. So in 2020, we launched our CGMA Finance Leadership Program. It's a professional qualification that's delivered 100% online. It was originally launched in the USA to introduce management accounting over there, because they just have public accountants working in business in the US. But we felt that this product was ideally suited for our marketplace at the current time. Next slide, please, Ryan. Why was it the right offering at the right time? Well, as I said, Gen Z have different expectations. It was a very flexible way of doing a professional qualification. Most people nowadays are very computer savvy. It was a quicker route to qualification with set timelines, because you bought a license for a certain period of time, and that incentivized the student to get through the content and the material in that particular time span. Most importantly, there was less exams. With the FLP route, you only have to do 3 formal exams, and they are the 3 case studies. The rest is done by continuous assessment. And all the tuition that's required to complete the professional qualification is contained within the package online. So you don't need extra classes or go to accountancy colleges at night time. Next slide, please. So I suppose the main benefits from a student perspective of the finance leadership program is, first of all, they learn through continuous assessment. And I think we all know that the problem with most of us is when we come to do exams, we tend to cram. And as soon as the exam is over, we've forgotten 90% of what we have been examined on. Whereas continuous assessment allows us to absorb that information and carry it forward. All the knowledge and skills gained while going through the leadership program is certified. So you get a certificate after each assessment you do. The beauty of this is that it's good for your CV, but also shows your employer that you now have the skills to actually do the job at any particular point in time. You go through an assessment of your knowledge and understanding of a particular aspect of the qualification before you can progress. So you must show and prove that you understood the material that you've learned before it will let you move on to the next stage. As I said earlier, there are only 3 formal examinations, and they're the case study. Because it's an online platform, you study when it suits you, and this meets the needs of today's busy world. The program will be done on your iPhone, your laptop, your iPad, so people can study at different times of the day when it suits them best. And all the learning, as I said, is provided on the platform. And the license has set deadlines, and this focuses the students on a particular timeline to complete their qualification. Next slide, please. It was launched during COVID, which actually proved very advantageous because students had more time to focus their mind on their qualifications. As a result of us launching FLP, student revenue has increased tenfold. But the most important thing from our perspective is the student experience. The feedback we've had from students going through the FLP platform has been nothing but incredibly positive. And they exit the examination process and the qualification process with a far better and more positive view of CIMA. From our perspective, it's a quicker route to membership. As I said earlier, the qualification was taking 6, 7, 8 years. Now, because there's a set license fee and set time period, students are gravitating to membership far, far quicker. I think a great example of how successful it has become is the amount of referrals we're getting from our student base for new members and new students to join and come along to study FLP. And we've already seen other body students transferring over to FLP. So there's been a significant growth in what I would call real students. I alluded to the fact earlier that we had 2,300 students on our books paying student fees. However, active students of that base was probably only about 60%. The other 40% were inactive. With FLP, the students are all active and all progressing through the qualification. Next slide, Jean, please. Exemptions are not as important in the student decision here. And this was something that I was happy about. I've always had a difficulty with the whole exemption process because we have seen in the professional qualification a direct correlation between student failures and the level of exemptions they get. In FLP, the exemptions are at a level as opposed to subjects, so you can't go above a level by way of exemptions. However, if the student feels that they have significant knowledge and don't need to study what's before them, they simply do the assessment. And if they pass the assessment, they can move forward. So therefore, if they have gained the necessary knowledge from their third level qualification, that when they do the assessment, they'll pass that assessment, and that will allow them to move on as if they had received the necessary exemptions. I suppose from our perspective as well, what we've seen is a lot of our dormant students. These are students who had stopped studying for many reasons. Maybe they had multiple failures of examinations. Maybe the open-endedness of the qualification just didn't suit them. But we've got a lot of these students re-engaging. In fact, we had one student recently that initially signed up for the PQ in the mid-90s, was dormant, and then qualified under FLP just recently. So, that person would have been lost forever to a professional qualification, and now is back re-engaging. Pass rates are very good on FLP, particularly with the dormant students. They seem to enter it with renewed vigor, and the pass rates from those students have been really, really, really good. But overall, generally, as we enter into this FLP, we're monitoring student pass rates, and it has improved over the PQ. We also get in touch with students who have failed, don't pass the case studies, and the great thing from our perspective is that the feedback we get from those students is that it wasn't the system that failed, it was them that failed the system. In other words, they didn't do sufficient work or do the mock exams and mock case studies within the program, and that added to why they weren't prepared as they should have been going through the exam. Also, what we did notice was within the program, you have a free resit. So a lot of students were taking the first case study exam just to see what the experience was like. Maybe they might pass it, but if they didn't, at least they were better prepared the next time. And that does have a slight impact on pass rates. Next slide, Jean, please. The student feedback, as I alluded to earlier, they love the fact that there's less exams. Young people have gone through second level education, exam. They go to third level education, exam. And, you know, by the time they get to professional qualification, they're really examined out. So the fact that there's only 3 formal examinations really suits this Gen Z population. They very much welcome the flexibility because it allows them to study when best suits them. As I said earlier, the student experience on completion has been excellent. There's no class tuition, and it has proved to be a much quicker route to qualification and to membership of our professional body. Next slide, Jane, please. The employer feedback has also been really positive to date. Some of the feedback we've got is that the continuous assessment is delivering the required skills to allow people to perform better on the job quicker. They have quicker qualified employees. There's less downtime. There's less expense overall as study leave time is reduced, exam leave time is reduced, and the cost of repeat exams. So there are significant cost savings that employers are finding from their students who are doing FLP through CIMA as opposed to some of the other qualifications to other accountancy bodies. Next slide, Jean, please. From our perspective, what have we learned since we've launched FLP 4 years ago now? Well, it definitely meets Gen Z aspirations. Students are re-engaging. They have a very positive experience as they go through the FLP, and that gives them a very positive outlook on the professional body. In the old days, when you've gone through 7 or 8 years of punishing exams, you don't necessarily qualify as positively as maybe you would have liked. The portable study platform is also very attractive because a lot of young people now will go to Australia or wherever for a couple of years. They can maintain their studying wherever they go. It's very flexible, and also the qualification now has global recognition. So I think it really adds up to a very powerful offering for our current crop of students. Next slide, Jean, please. What I would like to emphasize, though, for yourselves is that the FLP is not an easier route to professional qualification. It is just different. If students do not do the required work, they will fail, and we have seen that. The case studies that they are the formal examinations on both pathways, whether it's the PQ or the FLP, are exactly the same. And the examiners are unaware of the student pathway. So therefore, when they're correcting the case study examination, they are unaware as whether that student was an FLP student or a PQ student. So just to emphasize, it is no way easier, it's just different. It's continuous assessment as opposed to multiple exams, but there are a lot of assessments that the student has to undertake, and they must understand and know the knowledge that's within the content to actually pass the assessments. Next slide, Jim, please. This is our future student offering. As far as we see as FLP is the future. It very much allows the qualification to be evergreen because it's very easy for us to update our content with AI, ESG, or whatever comes out. It can, because it's all online, it can be updated almost instantaneously. We believe FLP is changing lives. We've seen it with for instance, dormant students who've had very difficult challenges with the traditional PQ and have embraced and engaged with FLP and have passed their exams and are now moving through the qualification. And we definitely believe that it's fostering career growth. So we believe the future professional qualification in accountancy is here, and it's FLP. I think that's it, Slán. Yes, that's me, Michael. Thank you very much all for your attention.
Great, thanks, Kieran, for that excellent overview of the developments in the CIMA education offering and the qualification route. And overall, it seems to be a great success for both CIMA students and employers. And we'll talk to you a bit more about that perhaps in the panel discussion later.
No problem.
So our next presenter is Fiona Arnold. Fiona is a senior student recruitment manager for CIMA Ireland, and will discuss an overview of how CIMA's taught skill sets and competencies align with employer needs in 2024. So over to you, Fiona.
Thank you, Michael.
Slides, Jean.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Now, I hope you can all see those slides.
Yes, that's perfect, Fiona. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be able to speak to so many of you today because as the student recruitment manager here in Ireland, it's really my job to be front-facing with you in the universities, and this is a fantastic opportunity for me to actually just speak to you about where the Institute is thinking, what its thinking is at the moment in the marketplace, and how we stitch into this discussion around the skill sets for the modern accountant. So the global finance function has really continued to evolve at a very fast pace with the fast-paced development of the rise of AI, especially recently, generative AI, which has transformed the financial processes, cloud computing, which is the standardization of cloud technology, which optimizes embedded finance, allowing for real-time data updates, the operational efficiency, automation of tasks, and of course the enormous area of managing data. And with the growth in data, finance departments are playing a crucial role in managing, consolidating, and controlling the flow of information across the organization. And indeed, a recent McKinsey report, which was actually entitled Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was last year's Best Picture at the Academy, it actually describes the way that the CEOs are currently feeling about the massive changes that are shaking their organizations. And I will include the article for you after the webinar today, so that you can see that. Excuse me. The report looks at many of the organizational shifts and major changes that business leaders need to address in this age of perpetual upheaval. It recommends the 4 superpowers that can help the CEOs navigate these shifts: the need for speed as a competitive advantage, the power of harnessing technologies that augment human capabilities, the importance of focusing on forgotten talent, and the importance of adopting a new style of leadership that is more self-aware and in tune with the times. So I thought today I would start actually by looking at CIMA's most recent research publication, The Future of Finance 2.0. And this lays out CIMA's research on the implications for finance professionals in 2024 and beyond. And in this context, I'd like to reflect upon the CIMA CGMA professional qualification in 24 in its response to the research in the form of our living syllabus documents, the accompanying live blueprint documents, and the CIMA CGMA competency framework. And I'd like to just look at how the living qualification benefits both our employers and our universities. And I'd like to explore how we can promote and enhance the dialogue and add value for you, our university contacts. Sorry, I'll take it back a slide. So this 2.0 paper is the result of an extensive research into the changing role and skills of finance professionals in the digital age. And it will continue to impact the CIMA CGMA syllabus blueprints and competency framework into the future. So just by way of background, it was a project that was led by the AICPA and CIMA Global Research and Development and Curriculum teams. The Institute's next investigation into the evolving role of management accounting in today's dynamic business environment. It has been built on the original paper in 2019 published, Reinventing Finance for a Digital World. And it examines and investigates the ambit of finance after recent global disruptions, and it highlights the proficiencies necessary for the evolution and advancement of our profession. This document is accessible to CIMA members, academics, undergraduates, students, and employers alike. And I'm very happy to share the document and the papers that fall out of it after this presentation. So you can see the papers that fall out of it had an emergence of 4 key themes for the future of finance and finance professionals. And these key themes are laid out in these documents, which I will also share with you. The changing role and mandate of finance, which examines how the function and responsibilities of finance professionals are evolving. The digital journey of finance, looking into the impact of digital transformation on finance. Organizational sustainability and ESG, which is a very important topic at the moment, focusing on the growth and importance of these factors in finance. Workplace evolution was the final of the 4, and that exploring how the workplace is changing, including the rise of hybrid work models and new ethical and regulatory considerations. Those 4 documents are very, very, very important to the way that CIMA now thinks and is relating to its syllabus and its syllabus development. And they are themes that are part of the larger conversation about how finance continues to move away from the traditional rules-based approaches towards a more inclusive, expansive, and value-creating mindset. And this is the way that CIMA is moving. So I will share those documents with you after the presentation today. So as an institute primarily concerned with the science of management accounting, we remain central in this ongoing conversation around the future of finance. And as I've already said, the research in the Future of Finance document 2.0 is reflected in today's professional qualification. The qualification is a living syllabus. It is accompanied by living blueprint documents and an evergreen CGMA competency framework. So the whole thing is really live and always will remain as thus. I want to briefly remind you of the syllabus because I'm sure you're all very, very aware of the 3 pillars, the 3 levels, the difference between each level, the case study exams that sit at the top of operational level and the management level, and the final strategic case study exam, and how each level imparts knowledge and business acumen expected from a finance professional working at either the operational entry level, the managerial level, or senior leadership level. The case study exams integrate the knowledge that has been learned either on the FLP platform or within the PQ route of the skills and techniques from across the 3 pillars into the one synoptic capstone examination. And at all levels of the qualification, learners are expected to create information, insight, influence, and impact. Obviously, the scope, reach, and the nature of this activity will vary by level. Passing each level of the qualification confirms a candidate's capabilities to perform the tasks at that level in the workplace to the highest standards. We also incorporate within the syllabus digital skills, and it's to prepare members for the finance function in a digital age and reflecting the importance of technology and data analytics in modern business practices. So if you look at the original 2015 syllabus, which is in the middle of this document, at 2019, we bolted on, and we continue to bolt on the areas on the side of this particular diagram, and they will continue to change as the syllabus evolves. Importantly, with the syllabus are the 3 blueprint documents. Now, they are very important in their own right. Obviously, they were first produced and validated in 2019, but they provide a clear direction on the approach and content of the examinations. And as I said, they remain live. They're reviewed and updated annually. And we've just received the new ones for this year earlier in January. And examinations will remain focused on the skills organisations most value in their finance professionals. So the blueprints will heed the syllabus, and they will work together to drive employability and organisational performance. They align with the syllabus, and they also align with the competency framework. So they are living pointers to the direction of the future of finance and how we will react to that going forward. As is the CIMA Competency framework the same. In 2019, originally, we updated 3 of the existing 4 knowledge areas of this framework: the technical skills, business skills, and people skills. And that, you can see, was reflected in the syllabus I showed you previously. The leadership skills remain the same. And then there was the addition of the new knowledge area, digital skills. Now, digital skills permeates everything, around which of the framework is the ethics, integrity, and professionalism piece. Today, this competency framework remains a living document. It continues to underpin the syllabus and the blueprints, ensuring competencies are integrated into the professional development and assessment of management accountants. It serves as the foundation for demonstrating the relevance and capabilities of CIMA's CGMAs as trusted finance and business strategists. It stands out also in the marketplace due to its comprehensive approach, emphasising a blend of technical and soft skills. And it helps management accountants, finance professionals, and their organisations ensure they remain equipped with the skills and competency needed for sustainable success. So it's a kind of push-pull. We are updating the syllabus, the competency framework, the blueprints, and at the same time, that is pulling through to our employers. So these competencies are seen as vital for finance professionals to navigate the 21st century challenges. And the next diagram will show you in detail what these actually are. Obviously in the area, and I won't go into too much detail, but within the area of technical accounting proficiency, for example, CIMA emphasises a thorough understanding of accounting principles, tax laws, and financial regulations. So accountants under our syllabus learn to prepare and review financial statements, conduct audits, and ensure compliance with the latest accounting standards. The technological adaptability, accountants are expected to be comfortable with accounting software, to be able to use data analytics tools and emerging technologies like blockchain and artificial intelligence. The business skills area, accountants learn to interpret finance data to guide business decisions. People skills, accountants must work effectively with colleagues, clients, and stakeholders. And leadership skills, accountants learn to take on leadership roles within their organisations. The digital skills, accountants acquire skills to navigate technological advancements and digital transformation. The framework is then emphasizes the need for objectivity, integrity, and ethical behavior, and that surrounds the whole of the learning and it permeates the learning required. I found a very interesting a piece of research around the employability built into the CIMA CGMA qualification versus Forbes' top 10 employable skills in demand for 2030. And I thought I'd share it with you. And just to show you on the left-hand side, the Forbes in the purple and how they translate into what we offer in the competency framework, the syllabus, and the blueprints. We are aligning, we will continue to align and keep going beyond 2030 as we highlight the growing importance of soft skills, projecting the the soft skill intensive occupations that will account for 2/3 of all jobs by 2030. So you can see all of those soft skills on screen, and I don't need to go through them, but you can see, and I will evidence for you a correlation between the Forbes and the CIMA qualification. So we're trying to reflect the holistic skill set required, a balance of technical proficiency with interpersonal and adaptive abilities. And this balance is going to be crucial for the workforce of 2030. Forbes also discusses the need for employees to be T-shaped. So having a deep expertise in one area with an ability to collaborate across disciplines. Now that's a very important thing. So CIMA's inclusion of digital skills aligns with Forbes' view that every employee will need to be a technology employee to some extent. And in summary, CIMA's competency framework equips accountants with a holistic skill set, combining technical expertise with adaptability, business acumen, and interpersonal abilities, which sets them apart from our colleagues in other professional bodies and their different syllabus offerings. I won't go into the benefits of employers. There are huge benefits for employers, and I know that my colleagues on this call are going to be dealing with that in their own presentations. So I would just like to note that those are some of the benefits to employers, which you can see on screen there. The framework is a strategic tool that supports employers in building a competent, ethical, and forward-looking finance team. So what we do is pushed forward into the employment space, specifically in the area of career development, talent management, ensuring that professionals are equipped with a blend of technical and soft skills required in today's dynamic field of management accounting, which will continue to evolve. Most importantly, I want to talk to you today about the benefits for you, our third level lecturers and your students. Because I am your contact for CIMA here in Ireland, this is a fantastic opportunity for me to actually say to you that I am your conduit for what you need from CIMA Ireland, for what you need for your universities, and for how you remain a part of our Irish CIMA CGMA dialogue between ourselves, your students, and you. So we really want to share knowledge with you and continue to continue sharing knowledges, and in some cases even to start conversations with you so that we can assist you further to enhance employability in your undergraduate and postgraduate degrees so that you can remain a part of this dialogue here with CIMA Ireland. And I'm really, really keen that that happens, and that our job is to continue to educate our third level academics and our advocates to the living scope and depth of its syllabus. So I thought I may just give you a flavour of the kinds of ways that we can actually help you. So Kieran's already explained and showcased the FLP learning platform. It's a fantastic platform. Students in the colleges that I've talked to, the light bulb goes on. They love it. They think it's amazing to think that when they finish their degree and they are out in the professional world wishing to undertake the CIMA qualification, that they can actually take this route with the same rigor, with only, in most cases, 3 exams. Also, our learning platform is a front runner in successfully incorporating AI. The personalized learning experience and the AI algorithms that underpin that and analyze your progress and learning patterns and performance. The efficiency and flexibility of the AI-powered platform allows you to study at your own pace anytime and anywhere. The continuous assessment model, instead of the traditional exams, the AI evaluates your understanding of topics, providing real-time feedback and identifying areas for improvement. Your reduced exam burden compared to other pathways. The transformational mindset that we are fostering using this platform, a forward-thinking mindset for our candidates and our members. This digital-first approach, which means that CIMA FLP is a passport to transformation, digital transformation. So it is really a very, very powerful kind of learning platform, and we are very proud to be a front runner in this particular area. Another area that I'm very interested in communicating with you is the business game. It's an educational tool designed to help university students in several ways. It simulates the role of a management accounting for practical experience. It develops skills. It fosters engagement and enjoyment, recognition and resource access. The business game is run in a classroom situation, typically over a period of 2 hours maximum, whereby we run a mini case study exam, if you like, with pre-seen material. And the theme of the session is to encourage students to work within teams to demonstrate and develop key skills employers are looking for in today's university students. We work with many employers and universities to showcase this product. I have an example of one that I've actually been running in some of your universities thus far. And it's based on a product of sportswear, and students are asked to look at the common factors that the business faces and work in teams to prepare 15 recommendations to actually drive the business forward. So it's a very interactive tool to actually promote the CIMA qualification. By the end of the session, the students present as many suggestions as they can on how the company, in this case Macintosh Grant, can accelerate the growth of the company and increase its profitability. And some of the things I'm seeing, recommendations coming out, are listed here on screen. This runs equally as well for first-year students as it does for postgraduate students. Recently, I had a group of first-year students who were in their first term, and they absolutely loved running this. So I really do recommend it as a tool for you for the classroom to embed into your classroom activities, or to just use as you wish. And I can definitely send you further information after today. We can also remain in dialogue with you by conversations with you as our academics, our advocates here in Ireland. We can remain in conversation with you with regards to the classroom business games, as I've been talking to you about. We can help you with your curriculum development. We can give you access to relevant research for your classroom and indeed for yourself. And if you are looking at doing research papers for the Institute, we would be very interested to hear from you. you can become one of our academic champions, which connects you with other academics globally. Or we can come in and embed a CIMA prize, and that goes alongside a class talk and a business game. So those are the sorts of ways that we can remain in dialogue with you as a part of the university CIMA conversation. So we remain in the middle in this ongoing important conversation. Our job as an institute is to continue to educate our employers, our third level academics, our advocates, and the wider public to the living scope and depth of the professional syllabus, the accompanying blueprints, and the competency framework. My wish today is to ensure that you will continue to remain live to this ongoing conversation, to the fast-paced developments, and that you will participate in accessing and sharing knowledge around this unique qualification with your students and with your colleagues. For your students, my wish for them, is that they gain a very clear picture of the CIMA qualification and our place in the market, that they appreciate the exciting prospects associated with studying this qualification, that they appreciate our chartered status and our prestigiousness, that they appreciate the robustness of the learning in the area of management accounting that we offer, and that they appreciate how they will adopt a digital mindset and the exciting FLP learning platform experience. So I'd just like to say a very big thank you. And I'm so pleased to be able to talk to you all. I'm really, really grateful to IAFA for allowing me to do so, because I think it's such a huge opportunity to make a connection with the academics in Ireland today. And if you'd like to contact me, they are the details on screen. And I would just like to thank you all very, very much indeed. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Fiona, for that excellent overview of the competencies required for the modern day accountant. And we can see that the finance function is definitely evolving at quite a fast pace of change, for which our graduates need to be prepared for. Thank you also for sharing the various resources available, and I'm sure many of our members will be in contact for assistance on that. So our first two speakers today were from CIMA and giving you an overview of the education and qualification routes within CIMA. Our next two speakers are from industry employers, and they will give you their insight from an employer perspective. So our first of two panel members in that regard is Peter Mulligan. Peter is a senior consultant in Deloitte Consulting's finance and performance team based in Dublin. He joined Deloitte in 2021 after graduating with a major in finance and accounting from the University of Scranton, Pennsylvania. Peter has supported large blue chip clients in technology, media and telecommunications sector, and has worked across several areas with client finance functions, but specializes in Deloitte's finance operating model offering. Peter started his CIMA journey at the management level due to his university exemptions and completed exams on the CIMA's traditional route before moving over to the FLP route. So it'll be great to hear Peter's insights from both. He became a CIMA member in March once he completed his formal submission, and which was formally approved. So welcome, Peter. And this morning, Peter will provide an overview of his experience of transitioning from the traditional professional qualification study route to the FLP program. And as a new associate member, he will provide an overview of the impact on the CIMA professional qualification had on his career to date. So thank you for joining us, Peter, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Michael. Can you move to the next slide, please, June? Yeah, thank you. So before I go into my experience with the FLP and the traditional route, I'd like to give a bit of a background about myself and how I actually got started on my accounting journey. So I initially started my undergraduate degree at the University of Scranton, Pennsylvania, home of the office, if anybody's a fan, where I started as a general business degree. I wasn't too sure which area I wanted to work in, but after I took my first managerial accounting class, I discovered a passion for that. And ever since then, my accounting journey has spiraled, and I've worked in financial accounting, managerial accounting, and I did my second major in finance. When I came back to Ireland, I was quite fortunate to get into Deloitte's graduate program, where I managed to gain a lot of experience across different areas within the finance function. Just to name a couple, I was happened to work on MI reporting projects, SAP implementations, operating models, and then also data strategy, while in parallel pursuing my CIMA qualification through the traditional route. So this really gave me a well-rounded experience and really allowed me to apply the principles that I was learning as a CIMA student to the real-world environment. And during my time with Deloitte, I got in contact with one of my directors in my department. His name is Conor Hanlon, who is quite prominent in the CIMA circles. And he mentioned that there was a CIMA Eastern branch, well, there's a different branch for all areas across Ireland, north, south, east, and west. And I got started there as a student representative approximately 2.5 years ago, I believe. And I discussed the differences between the traditional route and then the FLP, which I later transitioned to. And in recent months, some people on the call may be members. I supported the development and launch of the CIMA Ireland Members LinkedIn group. But I think it's worth mentioning, so I was quite fortunate to start my CIMA journey at the management level due to my background education. And I did 2 exams on a traditional route. And I did E2 and P2 for people who are familiar before transitioning over. And one of the main reasons that I transitioned was the increased study flexibility. Within consulting, a lot of times projects have the ability to ebb and flow in terms of how busy you may or may not be, depending on the deliverable. And I noticed when things were slightly quieter, I was able to progress a lot quicker with my studies. But when things were quite intense, I found myself slacking or falling behind. And at times I thought I had to go over the content I already studied. So it took a lot longer for me to actually progress in my qualification. And one of the great things I noticed about the FLP is that there is a study dashboard, which was mentioned earlier, I believe, by Kieran, that lets you track your progress as you go through the qualification. If I have an ambition to tick off 8 different modules or 8 study areas in the space of a week, I know what I have to do to continue my study. So I'm going to be ready for my case study in 2 months' time. This was a really big thing. It is difficult to juggle the intensity of studying for a professional qualification and also working in intense environments. And just to go down even further into the FLP, going through the traditional route, it was textbook based. So you learned a lot of great content and you absorbed it. But a lot of the time, although you're learning the content, it was difficult to apply that to real world, realistic business scenarios. That one of the really great things about the FLP, which what I found, that you are put into the shoes of a finance manager or somebody reporting to the board of an organization and given real world scenarios to test your critical thinking. And something that I really found when I've been working with clients quite high at COO levels is that a lot of the stuff that I studied through the FLP program, similar scenarios had come up in my workplace environment as well. So I think it really gave me, although I may have learned this content through the textbook route, this gave me a chance to apply the knowledge, and because I know I've seen that before in the FLP. And another thing that I noticed about the FLP which was great, was the study preparation for the case study. The case study, for people who may not know, is the capstone exam, which sits over the 3 study areas per level as you progress through your qualification. And the case study is based on putting you in the shoes of a finance manager or somebody reporting to the board, and you have to answer certain scenarios and you're graded upon that. But the FLP, as I previously mentioned, you are put in realistic business scenarios. So you are used to the setup and what is it, when you become accustomed to what the layout and the standard is and what is to pass these exams. And another thing that was great was within the FLP, there's a boot camp, which you give 6-7 weeks where you practice for your case study and you get an insights from a professional who tells what is needed to pass these exams, what is the best way to lay out your answers in order to progress through the qualification, which I thought really helped me. And I was quite fortunate to pass my management case study and my strategic case study first time. But anybody I talked to within Deloitte and outside of Deloitte, they said this was a really big help to helping them progress with their qualification. Next slide, please, Jean. Thank you. So I wanted to just break down a couple of different areas of what I thought the impacts the CIMA qualification had in my career thus far, which I broke it down into a couple of skills which I picked out from previous client projects that I was working on. So the first one I thought was like financial reporting. although I had a strong foundation in financial reporting due to my undergraduate degree, CIMA's really gave me increased understanding of financial reporting through more detailed topics that may or may not have been covered at undergraduate level. And one that sticks out to mind for me was when I was an analyst I was only 3 or 4 months in the job, but I was working on currency translations for a tech client. And this is something that I'd never really encountered in my studies before. And then I was quite fortunate that a couple of months later, I did see a very in-depth area of currency translations topics in my F3 studies within the qualification, which really helped me tie everything together. And this is no reflection on the undergraduate level education that I received, but CIMA really does drive into what is needed when you are performing at high level clients. And then the next one I thought was advanced appraisal techniques. This was seen in the advanced management accounting modules. You're given a number of different appraisal methods, like studying internal rate of return, net present value, and you understand the calculations and the metrics that are going behind this. And in the industry, it's great to have that confidence in yourself to say, I understand how these formulas work and what the inputs are in order to get the output, and explain that to the client. So I thought CIMA gave a really good background in this and gave me increased confidence. And as I progressed, I thought strategic planning arguably was the biggest thing I'd taken away as a skill from the qualification. As CIMA is a tiered structure, which I believe Fiona showed earlier, from the operational to the management to the strategic level, you learn all these you learn the skills as you progress through the qualification. But at the strategic level, you're given the ability to see the big picture, and you see how all the different work streams or all the different functions tie into each other, and how the organization actually functions as a unit, which I thought was very helpful. And it's also another thing in terms of the strategic planning, but also, which is equally important in my opinion, is management skills. The CIMA qualification is very heavily focused on technical accounting, but it also prepares an individual or a student for leadership roles within the organization. As Fiona previously mentioned, accountants often do take on roles that are quite senior, and they have to develop leadership skills to deal with different people. And the FLP gave a great example of that as well, through realistic scenarios. But I thought, from what I've gained in my experience so far working with junior resources, is that the skills that I learned through the CIMA qualification in terms of managerial styles and techniques have really helped me perform my role to a high level within my current company. And finally, in terms of project management, even though I came from an accounting and finance background, I did very little work in project management as a whole throughout my undergraduate education. And I believe when I studied the E2 module at the management level, it gave me a really strong foundation in the techniques and tools such as critical path analysis, just to name one, that I wouldn't have previously known through my undergraduate studies. And when I'm working in a PMO role or even as a project manager with different clients, I relay back my experiences studying this content that really helped me perform my role to a higher level. Next slide, please, Gene. And then I think it's arguably, I keep saying it's the most important, it's really important as well, is the credibility that you get for having an ACMA, CGMA qualification after your name. Even though this has only happened for me in the last 2 months, I've already noticed the impacts that I've had when working with senior stakeholders within an organization. Immediately, I'm working on a current project, which is across Europe, and working with senior finance managers, particularly in the UK, where some people see the CGMA after my name and they realize this person has put in a lot of time and effort to get this qualification through the traditional route and also through the FLP. And it shows the level of quality that you have behind your name. And a lot of the time, the senior stakeholders that you're dealing with across these geographies are also CGMAs themselves. So straight away, there is that level of relatability, as if this person has gone through the same qualification, I know they're capable of performing at a high level. And also, even on a more personal level, the qualification has given me increased confidence when I perform my role in terms of analyzing financial data and making informed decision-making on client engagements. It really does give you that sense of confidence that I have passed, I've quite a rigorous qualification, and I know I have the skill set in me to progress and perform well on a certain deliverable for a client. Next slide, please. And another thing which I've only really starting to gain now in the last 2 months since I became a member is the quality of resources that I'm getting as being a CIMA member. So there's constant continuous professional development training and leadership training, which keeps us up to date with like the latest developments in the accounting and finance industry. One thing I've particularly noting is with digital disruption and the power of generative AI and even automation is really coming to the fore. And it's great that CIMA have so many thought leadership articles on this, which really helps me in my role in the day-to-day environment as you're trying to stay on the cutting edge of what you're explaining to your clients to say, I'm aware of the next latest developments in generative AI. And there's also, you're part of a large community, as I believe was mentioned earlier by Kieran. I'm not going to try and remember the number. I forgot the number off the top of my head. But if you are part of a very large group and community of management accountants where you can discuss the latest trends in the industry and markets. So you feel part of a community that you can reach out to if you do feel like sharing knowledge or you need to ask a question, there is possibilities there. And then finally, for people who may or may not have been there was a professional networking event, I believe it was 2 weeks ago in Crow Park, which was a great opportunity to meet CIMA members from all across the country, from north, south, east, and west, where we did some networking, and it really helped me personally to grow my network as I met people from the northern branch and the southern branch, and we discussed the topics in the economy as we go forward. So just to bring it all together, the CIMA qualification has given me a lot of skills which I can apply to my daily job. It's given me increased confidence, and also I know that the resources are there to help me to kick on as a professional. So it's made a huge impact on my career, and I've only been a member for 2 months. So I can't wait to see how that improves as I go forward. Thanks very much.
Great. Sorry. Thank you very much, Peter, for that. And thanks for the overview of your experience with the CIMA route qualification in particular. And it's great to see how that route to qualification is really complementing your career as you progress, and you're having great success in that regard. So thank you for sharing those thoughts. Our next speaker is Claire. Claire is a finance manager. Sorry, Claire Kearns. Sorry, I forgot the surname. Claire is a finance manager in the finance consulting team of EY and is based in the Belfast office. She is ACMA and CGMA qualified and has recently been appointed to the UK and Ireland Regional CIMA Committee. Prior to joining EY, Claire graduated top of her class in MSc Accounting and Finance. She's worked in EY for the past 6 years and has experience working in both the public and private sector. Some of Claire's clients are based in the health sector, government departments, transportation sector, and the energy sector. So this morning, Claire will provide an overview of her experience of the FLP programme from an employer perspective and what she believes are the skill sets that she has developed, which reflects what she expects from a modern day accountant. So welcome, Claire, and over to you.
Thanks so much, Michael. It's great to be here. Gina, if we could go on to the first slide, please. Thank you. So just to give a bit of context on my journey. So I started my CIMA qualification when I joined EY as a graduate, and I completed the exams about a year and a half later. So I completed my CIMA qualification when it was in the traditional format, so pre-FLP format. I completed my master's in accounting and finance, so I was exempt from 11 out of the 16 exams, which gave me a massive head start at the time. The skills that I think I personally gained from the qualification provided me with the foundation that I needed to succeed in my career, in my opinion, especially in such a financially focused and client-facing role. So to name a few, my decision-making skills and strategic thinking skills were sharper, and I had the confidence and the ability to assume more leadership roles in my job. I would say that when I became chartered with CIMA, I progressed quite quickly in EY, which I do believe was not a coincidence. The network of people that I now have through CIMA is extensive, and I would say that CIMA has provided me with the opportunities that otherwise would have not been realised. For example, when I was recently appointed as a member of the UK and Ireland Regional Committee for CIMA, which I start in June, and I believe that this was a direct result of my ties with the CIMA community. So various colleagues are currently completing or have completed the most recent FLP format. So when I reached out to them to discuss their experience with it, it was overwhelmingly positive. For example, it was said that it nurtures the ability to communicate financial insights effectively. The overall consensus was that it was very flexible and they were able to fit their learning around their busy work schedule. So finance consulting is a very fast-paced environment. So many said that it empowered them to thrive in that ever-changing finance environment. I was also told that the FLP was extremely relevant and aligned with current business environments, that it bridges the gap between numbers and actionable strategies, and that it hones the strategic thinking skills, which all really strengthens our current value in the marketplace. Please move on to slide 2, please. So from EY's perspective, the FLP program is seen as invaluable, and we recognise the value of the skills and knowledge gained from it. So much so that we encourage our employees to complete the qualification through offering financial reimbursement of the program, along with study leave from work to complete the exams. As mentioned earlier, successful completion of the program can be an important part of your career path within EY because it equips you with the skills and qualities that set you up for success in the working world. EY is known for its commitment for nurturing talent, and the leadership skills and strategic thinking skills developed through the CIMA program really aligns with EY's objectives in developing those well-rounded leaders. With CIMA being internationally recognised, EY professionals who have completed the program could be well positioned for opportunities across the network's global offices. Participants in the program can connect with a wide network of professionals, which benefits EY as an organisation by expanding its professional networks and potential business opportunities. EY as an organisation typically values lifelong learning and may view the CIMA FLP as part of its employees' continuous professional development. Also, as employees gain more advanced skills in finance and leadership, the quality of the service offered by EY can improve, and therefore we maintain our reputation as a leading professional services firm. So I think hopefully it's clear that in summary, EY definitely recognises the power of the CIMA FLP programme. If we move on to slide 3, please. Thank you. So in my opinion, the CIMA Finance Leadership Programme is designed to develop a wealth of competencies that are critical for modern accountants, especially those who aim to take on those leadership roles within businesses. So I have included in the slide some of the key skill sets that I believe the modern accountant should have, and that in parallel, I believe that the CIMA FLP programme actually helps develop. So the first one to talk through the obviously financial acumen, so developing that deep understanding of financial principles, accounting standards, and financial reporting to enable that data-driven decision making. Also, as mentioned before by a couple of the panel members, strategic thinking is massive. So learning to formulate and implement business strategies that drive sustainable success and long-term value creation. Of course, risk management as well. So understanding how to identify and assess and manage the risks that could affect the financial health and stability of an organization. Also, performance management. So learning how to measure, monitor, and improve business performance using those key performance indicators and other metrics. Also, a big part, especially in today's current climate, is analytics and big data. So all around harnessing the power of data analytics and big data to inform strategic decisions and drive business improvements. Of course, mentioned a few times already, the ethical and professional standards lens, upholding that high ethical standards and professionalism with the focus on integrity, objectivity, and due care in the field of accountancy, massive at the minute. Then there's the leadership and management element, so cultivating the ability to lead and manage teams effectively all around like negotiation and conflict resolution and talent management. Of course, the communication skills, so all around enhancing the ability to communicate financial and business information clearly and persuasively to stakeholders with different levels of expertise. Of course, already mentioned, well known the global perspective, so developing that global outlook to understand international business practices and adapt to different economic and cultural and regulatory environments. And then finally, I would say our continuous professional development, which I mentioned earlier as well. So embedding that culture of lifelong learning to stay abreast of the latest industry trends, standards, and regulations. So I would say, from my perspective, in summary, the CIMA Finance Leadership Programme is designed to be responsive to the evolving demands of the business world, ensuring that its graduates are well equipped with cutting edge skills and knowledge that will enable them to excel as finance leaders. these skill sets not only prepare accountants for the traditional tasks of financial reporting and compliance, but also enable them to contribute strategically to the success of the organizations they work for. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Claire, for sharing your experience with the CIMA FLP program and route to qualification, and your excellent overview of those skill sets required for the modern day accountant. So now we're going to have a panel discussion, and I invite all our members back. So Peter, Fiona, Kieran, all come back, please. Please also be aware, everybody online, that there's in the chat function, we welcome your questions. So I have a few questions for the panel first, and then we will go to audience questions. So perhaps, Kieran, I might start off with you just to go back to your presentation. So from a CIMA perspective, you referred to this in your presentation, but we might talk about it a little bit more, that what is the feedback from industry employers about the difference perhaps between students through the old qualification route and the new FLP approach?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Michael. Now, we have to put this in perspective. The FLP really is only out there in the marketplace. Although we launched in 2020, it's only in the last 2.5 years that it has really got legs and has started to grow exponentially. And initially, with anything that's new, there's a degree of skepticism, and the skepticism comes really around the rigor of a new program. And also, a lot of the people in employers who were maybe CIMA members had gone through the PQ, you know, they'd walked on the hot coals, they'd walked on the broken glass, and this new methodology seemed a little bit easier to them. So we had to get over that degree of skepticism. And when you actually get into the body of the program, and I'm sure Peter will attest to this, that it is, as I said earlier in my presentation, it is not an easier route to a professional qualification. It's just different. And students have to get that mindset as well. The other issue from an employer perspective was there's a large upfront cost. I mean, you buy a license, so you're investing an awful lot more in your employee than you did previously under the traditional PQ. But what employers quickly found out was the actual overall cost is an awful lot cheaper, because under the older method you had to have tuition costs, maybe repeat exams, but more importantly was the downtime. I mean, both Claire and Peter alluded to in EY and Deloitte, you know, how busy their jobs are at particular times. You can imagine these big firms, and suddenly all the graduates leave 2 weeks before a certain deadline to do study leave and then sit in exams. That's a major cost to these bodies, and they began to see that. So the feedback from employers that we've talked to about and who've embraced FLP has been very positive from their own perspective, i.e. cost, but also from the skills that the employee is developing and able to use on the job as they're actually going through the program. So it's been tremendously positive, Michael.
Great, thank you, Kieran. And maybe from an employer perspective, Claire, with your own work in EY and maybe with colleagues, what is the experience of employers with maybe the different approach to learning between the two situations?
So, in my opinion, the fact that the CIMA FLP program seems to be constantly evolving to keep up with market trends and emerging technologies within the market is advantageous to us as an employer, because we are constantly working with our clients with the most up-to-date and cutting-edge technologies and the most up-to-date concepts every day. So hiring people with that up-to-date knowledge just accelerates their performance in the company and then our performance as a company. In addition, because the program is so flexible, it works for us because we're able to encourage our employees to work towards this qualification without affecting the needs of our clients. So it definitely seems to work for both the person studying and us as an organization. So to me, it's a win-win.
Okay, excellent. And Fiona, I might actually go to you there as well with a question. So we have maybe the CIMA perspective from Kieran and the employer from Claire. Is there any feedback from the education and the universities in terms of the qualification route of FLP?
Yes, most definitely. Anybody we've spoken to has had a light bulb moment, and it really has just shone the light on how different this particular route, this study route is. And it's very, very positive feedback from academics and students.
Great, brilliant. Okay, so looking at more specifically at the skill sets that the modern day accountant needs. So we all know that organizations need accountants who can perform the traditional analysis and provide unbiased decision making. So Peter, can I ask you, how do you consider, how familiar are graduates with maybe the broader business concepts beyond accounting in your own role in Deloitte?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think graduates usually, when they've come from a finance or accounting background, they would have strong core principles and knowledge in this field. But a lot of the time, if they don't have relevant work experience, they may be lacking the broader business concepts, which is only a lot of times just gained on the job. But this is something that will come with time and with experience and exposure to major roles. I think a lot of the time graduates do have a foundational level knowledge, but at the same time, once they get into client facing roles or even additional trainings, whether it's continuous assessment or any different areas, they will develop these skills. But even from my own time, I graduated about 4 or 5 years ago. You have a strong foundation, but when you're asked a nuanced question by a client or in a certain industry, you find yourself lacking in certain areas. So I think there's a strong foundation, but a lot of these skills are picked up in the workplace over time.
Great. So Claire, I might go to you next. So it's clear from the presentations today that there's lots of different skill sets that the modern graduate needs, between a blend maybe of technical skills and softer skills. What do you think are maybe the top 3 or the most important skills that you see that graduates should be coming into the workforce with?
So I would say that one of them would definitely be technical proficiency. So having that familiarity with accounting software, like ERP systems, enterprise resource planning systems, and other financial management tools would be essential. And then of course it's already been mentioned, but accountants, in my opinion, should also be open to learning about the emerging technologies like blockchain and artificial intelligence. So that would be one. I would say, I would also say, which has already been discussed as well today, I heard all around the sustainability reporting and advisory. So of course, with the increase in focus on sustainability, accountants need to be able to report on sustainability metrics and advising clients on sustainable practices. And then my final third one would be all around the soft skills area. So having that strong communication, leadership, problem solving skills are definitely essential for client engagement and the ability to work effectively in diverse teams.
Okay, great. Kieran, do you want to come in there?
Yeah. Yes, Michael, I was just for your own members. I mean, I think this could be the importance of the business game that Fiona alluded to, because it does give students a real sense of real business, critical thinking and decision making, and what actually happens in the real world. Because, we do get very much caught up in the theory, but when you put it into the business case, you're having to make strategic, critical thinking, find solutions to real life problems. So I would encourage your members, to touch base with Fiona and maybe get some of these business games into the classroom, because I really do think it will help show the student what decision making can be like in a business environment.
Okay, very good, thank you.
And just
Claire,
to add to that, I'm
yes.
sorry, Michael, just to add to that.
No, go ahead, Fiona.
I have a suite of business games, so it's not just the one I showed you on the screen. And it just brings the whole qualification to light. And I'd be very keen to share.
And Claire, can I just ask you, you mentioned blockchain and artificial intelligence there. Do you think graduates coming out of the 3rd level today have the necessary exposure to say blockchain and artificial intelligence before they enter the workplace?
That's a very interesting question. And in fact, I've been assisting a couple of postgraduate students who are doing dissertations on that subject. I think now it's important for the universities to start looking at how they embed those particular subjects further into their qualifications, and how they use perhaps different platforms to do so. And it's obviously a discussion that has to be held internally, but yes, I definitely think it's very important.
Okay, and Claire, from an employer perspective, firsthand, do you see that graduates have the depth of knowledge in these areas they require?
So I would say that graduate accountants are aware of blockchain and AI, but wouldn't have much in-depth knowledge around the topics. The only thing I would say would be, of course, the more knowledge that they're coming out of university and to have is better, because it sets them apart from the rest. Like, however, a lot of organizations, for example, EY, I'm sure Deloitte as well, Peter, they take measures to ensure our employees have the tools to upskill in this area when they join the organization. So, like, for example, like EY would have like continuous learning and training where they provide its employees with ongoing training and professional development opportunities to keep them updated on the latest technology and trends. And we have our own like technology advisory services to help clients embrace like digital transformation, and therefore EY professionals are constantly kept up to date. And then, of course, we're working with clients from various industries every day to understand firsthand how technology trends are impacting businesses. So I would say, of course, it would give you a competitive edge as a graduate to have the most knowledge as possible. But, organizations now know that they have to upskill as well, just because it's newish.
Okay, so there's a bit of work to do probably on both ends there then.
Yeah.
And Peter, can I just bring you back in there then? So we talked about blockchain and AI, but even if we look at more kind of, we could call them basic tools such as Excel skills and ERP systems, do graduates, what's your experience of graduates' knowledge in those areas?
I think graduates in an accounting and finance field would usually have a base level of experience and proficiency in Excel. I think when it comes to more complicated or advanced formulas, or even trying to use macros or pivot tables, there's a bit of a knowledge gap in that space there, and that was a bit of a learning curve for me when I started my job. And I think if you are good at Excel and using advanced functions, I think it makes your job a lot easier overall, as sometimes these are the most complicated areas, is trying to understand how can I visualize and analyze this data source. So I do think if you're good at Excel, it definitely would help college students as they get into their graduate roles. And in terms of ERP systems, I think a lot of the time in Deloitte, we work with SAP a lot. I think there was not really much experience, in my experience anyway, with graduates having any exposure to ERP systems. But if they had a foundational knowledge or even used to using the interface, I think that'd be very helpful.
Okay, excellent. And I might just throw this question open to the panel generally. So universities are constantly evolving and developing their programs to try keep up with the fast pace of change in industry. So are there any particular elements or activities that you feel universities should be incorporating into their educational programs more in order to prepare graduates for employment? Anyone, Fiona, you'd like to come in there?
Yeah, definitely the business game. I would definitely recommend that is a very good vehicle, and the and just being aware of the framework, the CIMA framework, CGM, and the blueprints on an ongoing basis to see how the universities can pull in that information into their actual degree courses. And that's where the dialogue comes in between CIMA Ireland and the universities. I think that's very important.
And I'll also jump in. I would also say having that practical experience with technology. So given the increasing role of technology in accounting and finance, employers like UI value graduates who have hands-on experience with accounting software and data analytics tools and other relevant technologies. So if you could incorporate that in a bit more, that would be great.
Very good. So can I just go to Jean? Is there any questions from the audience?
Firstly, for Kieran, first it's a thank you on clarifying on the FLP, and obviously consensus that it's exciting times for CIMA ahead. But you also mentioned in your presentation that there's an enhanced level of knowledge retention within the FLP. Is this something that you, as a student, I suppose, is tracked on throughout the program and post-qualification?
Well, not necessarily post-qualification, but obviously within the qualification method. The reason I alluded to was that learning through continuous assessment, I think I look back to it's an awful long time ago, but there are projects I did in school that I can still remember the detail of what I learned in doing that project. as opposed to a geography exam I took in 1980. I can't remember anything about stalagmites or stalactites and which goes up and which goes down. So I think what for continuous assessment it does is it actually allows students in bite-sized chunks absorb information and retain that information. So when they get on the job, that skill has been built up and they're actually in a position to be able to apply that skill immediately because they understand what they're doing. And I just think that when I look at, even my own children now going to university, they've gone from leaving cert and second level exam. Then they go straight to third level exam, education, exam. And most of that information that they learn, a lot of it is forgotten because the whole focus has been just on preparing for that one exam and this cramming of knowledge to try pass an exam. I just believe continuous assessment, it just allows you to absorb and retain knowledge far easier than if you're just preparing purely for an examination.
Great, thank you. There's one on AI specifically. Now that it's part of our life, whether social or work, with advancements in AI, students can now effectively get AI to do research and then write assessments, etc. As research that could have taken months to do could now be done within weeks. And how is CIMA addressing this as part of their assessment program, if they are? And do you encourage students to use AI as part of their research process for their assessments? And if not, why not?
I'll throw that ball to you, Fiona.
Okay, so I think if a student has done the learning in the qualification and learned the skills that they need, they're going to have to apply them in a human marked exam, which is the case study. So they have to do that themselves. That is their learning and their interpretation of the skill sets. So I don't know, generally speaking, how AI is being addressed at the moment within the institute. But to me personally, somebody doing that exam has to interpret it themselves. They can't, and there is no scope within the exam setting for a student to go and search the internet because the exam is rigorously adjudicated, whether it be in centre or on the computer at home. There's no real scope for them to do that. They have to know the information of the pre-scene inside out. They have to be able to go and use their knowledge from what they've learned previously to then deliver what they would do as the management accounting and accountant for a business in that exam setting. So I can't see how, and that exam is then human marked. So the element for using generative AI in that space, I think, is potentially limited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I think you're right, Fiona. I think, before they do the case study, they get all the pre-scene material they need. They can do all the research they need, but that won't pass the exam.
No, it won't.
What passes the exam is how you interpret the information in that to make business and rational decisions for the business. So, it might help you prepare, but it certainly won't help you achieve.
And just to go back to something that Peter, you referred to in the boot camp scenario, which is this is what I run here locally, that with Mr. Peter Plant, in one set, you're on a call and you're looking at all the different angles of that particular piece of pre-scene material, but you don't know what the examiner's going to throw at you within the exam. So therefore, you have to have learned that information so solidly so that when you step into the exam, you are in the position of the management accountant within the organisation, whether it be at operational level, management level, or strategic level, and you have to respond accordingly.
Thanks, Fiona. This one may be for Peter and or Claire. if possible, please. Can you comment on how specifically the FLP helps build specific skills in Excel and also in data analytics? I know you spoke about Excel before, Peter, so you might have a comment, please.
Yeah, sure thing. I don't think the FLP really develops your Excel skills. That's a different area. The FLP is more so management, accounting concepts, and leadership skills in that sort of realm. Excel is a different area. There are certain parts of the FLP where data strategy is mentioned, and under that you get reference to KPIs, critical success factors in that sort of space. But I wouldn't say Excel is referenced in the FLP. That's a different area.
Perfect, thank you. We've been asked, I suspect that the flexibility offered by this programme, i.e. the FLP, is attractive to mature learners, perhaps the dormant learners you spoke of earlier, Kieran. But do you have any data that supports how well this cohort perform on the programme?
In respect to dormant students?
In respect of the flexibility that the mature, attractive to mature learners.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's just a couple of experiences we've had to date. Obviously, I did refer earlier to those what we class as dormant students. These are people who have started off on their PQ journey and then for whatever reason stop. And normally what you find is the reason they stop is because there's multiple failures in a particular topic, and they can't get over that topic, and they lose confidence and they lose interest, and they just say, this is not for me. So I said earlier, there was potentially 16 exams to do in the CIMA qualification, and one exam blocks them from being a management accountant, and it impacts their career, which is absolutely nonsensical and ridiculous. Particularly the subjects they tend to fail on are now covered by computers, give them the answers to that. It's more the interpretation, the understanding, the building of knowledge, and so on and so forth. So when a lot of our dormant students came back, we found they actually progressed through the examination and progressed with very strong pass rates, because they seem to have a reinvigorated interest in what we're doing, and that was very comforting from our perspective. From a mature student perspective, we've all sorts of students, from those who just leave college to those who decide to do a professional qualification going forward. I mean, a lot of our members are not just accountants per se in their business or in finance functions. They could be CEOs or CEOs or so on and so forth. And we're finding a lot of C-suite people, when they get to a certain level in an organization, decide that they need a good financial background, and therefore they gravitate towards our qualification, which is good to see also. We also have a situation whereby people have had to take career breaks for particular reasons, and in the past would have had to put their studies on hold. Maternity leave was one good example. With FLP, we've seen a lot of examples of ladies continuing to do their studies while on maternity leave, and then coming back and graduating and qualifying and so on and so forth. So I think it meets personally, I think it meets a myriad needs, and as both Claire and Peter alluded to, I think it's the flexibility in how you can study the program, meets the challenges of the busy schedules that we all lead nowadays.
Thanks, Kieran. One question here. The current market for students who would like to train as CGMA, where can you find details of vacancies? I suppose that's more from a career perspective, maybe. Maybe I'll come back to you on that one, please, Pat. I can go to you directly with that one, please. Let me have another read, sorry. Congratulations, the FLP is a very positive direction to travel. Do you have visibility and the ability to help students who struggle to navigate through the platform? Maybe that could be Fiona for boot camps, maybe potentially.
I believe that there are videos in terms of how to use the platform. Is that what you're actually referring to?
I'm not too sure what the
yeah, I think, Jane, though, also, like you know, our business development managers are the ones who engage with the students when they are electing to take the program or trying to make a decision. And they actually go through the platform with potential students, show them how it works, show them what's available on the platform, how it operates, and how to make best use of it. So there is that individual engagement between a potential student and the platform, and the conduit being our business development managers.
Thanks, Kieran. And just another question on the actual FLP again. Does the delivery mode provide opportunity for students to access help from course lecturers? Again, it's all online, so there's not specific course lectures. So again, Fiona, maybe from a bootcamp perspective, that you have support from Peter.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think if anybody on the call would like a demonstration of FLP, I think Fiona would be more than willing to do that. I think when you see the program and have access to it and see the tuition that's provided within the program, you'll get a great deal of comfort from it. There is a more expensive program that a student, if they want additional tuition, they can go for that level of the program as well. At the moment, probably of the students going through it, 80% are going through just the standard FLP package and passing. And what we do offer is boot camps for case studies. I think Peter referred to them, whereby you know, it's sort of an online classroom environment where the lecturer, Peter, will take them through the pre-seen material and what type of things they're going to be asked and how they should handle different questions. And it just gives them that level of confidence that when they go into the case study exam, there's no shocks or there's no something out of left field that they're not really prepared for. But I think when you see the platform or having a run through the platform, it will give you an understanding of the type of facilities and tuition and learnings there are for the student within it. Sorry.
Peter, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, just to jump in on what Kieran was saying there, completely accurate, and it is like a classroom environment when you are working alongside the lecturer. But I think one of the biggest benefits of the boot camps is the fact that when you actually get 2 practice exam submissions. So you get practice exams in terms of ahead of your case study, and 2 of them will be corrected externally. So you can gauge what level you're at in terms of, are you close to passing? Are you at pass mark? Obviously, you can change on the day because the questions can be framed in a different manner, but you should know there or thereabouts if you are on track to pass. So I think that was the biggest help. If I remember correctly, there was 4 exams, like different templates for practicing, and 2 of them will be marked externally, which is a huge help.
Great, thank you, Peter.
Any other questions there? I think there's a few about what specific software CIMA is using to train students with, say, blockchain and more data analytics tools that CIMA are adopting.
Yeah, I think we'll go back on an individual basis on some of those more technical questions, I think, Michael, please.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't know offhand, to be completely honest.
Thank God for that.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you. Anne-Marie, I can go back on questions that anything that we're not at hand to answer right now. Michael, if you want to move on, maybe, please.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Just before we go to some maybe closing questions, Kieran, I just wanted to come back to something you mentioned earlier in your presentation about exemptions, and it kind of appears to me that our CIMA are putting less of an emphasis on the exemptions of graduates coming out of particular degree programs from universities. Could you maybe talk a bit more about that?
Yes, Michael, I will. I suppose it was something when I came into the business a number of years ago. I started saying, okay, we're getting calls from various universities and colleges saying, we've got this course now and we want to apply for exemptions, and we'd look at the course, we'd give them the necessary exemptions, and then they'd come back to us and said, well, hang on, your competitors are giving us 2 more exemptions this course, so if we don't get the same level of exemptions, well, you know, how do we promote CIMA over this? And I sort of got me thinking as to, but what's exemptions all about? And I presume an exemption was that, you know, you already have the knowledge, that doing an exam becomes a waste of time because you're just re-examining what you already know. And yet, when we went looked at our failure rates with our students, we found a direct correlation between those who were failing exams and those who were getting exemptions within certain subjects, and the correlation was really, really tight. But yet we were continuing to have to give these exemptions. And my view is, well, we're given the exemption and the students are failing. You know, who's benefiting from this? Certainly not the student. In other words, whatever they were learning in college wasn't sufficient to allow them to pass a professional qualification examination. And so therefore we looked at the whole exemption process. But when FLP came out, it wasn't that we changed, it was just the way the FLP system decided that you will get an exemption at a certain level, as opposed to based on the number of, like in the old days, 5 or 6 exam sittings. And the beauty, as I said, about FLP now is that if a student is upset by that, just do the assessment. If they pass the assessment, they don't have to go back on the topic. So they've already got the exemption within the program without it actually being stipulated to them. But I do think, and I would, well, again, it's open for debate, but I'm just sort of saying, I just wonder about this whole exemption model. Is it really necessarily in the student's best interest?
Yeah, you raised some interesting points there. And maybe the whole exemptions debate is probably for another day, but I just wanted to get your view on that. So thank you for that. We might just go to some closing questions. So from Kieran and Fiona, like what's next for CIMA and FLP? Or I know you said this is 4 years in the rollout now. Is there any more major changes on the way or developments?
Well, I think, Michael, the beauty of it is that because it's an online platform, we can keep this evergreen with the switch of a button. So this will always be up to date. It will always be able to encompass what's actually happening in the marketplace. Our focus now for the next number of years is just rolling it out and making as many people as possible aware of FLP. Their decision is up to themselves, but we want to build awareness of this new way of gaining a professional qualification. As I said, to date, we're bowled over by the success. And what I really like is that I did mention 2,300 students. All the students we have on FLP now are real students. There are people who are actually progressing through the qualification. And that's not only good for CIMA, that's good for the marketplace in general, because we need more accountants out there. We need more people with financial acumen in business, because you know yourselves from universities, the numbers going through and picking accountancy is stabilizing, if not dropping. And also the way accountancy is taught at second level is not encouraging people to choose accountancy as a profession. And one thing we would like to, and Fiona can offer this as well, is that a lot of students aren't aware of the myriad of opportunities that are out there with a financial qualification. It's not just to be an accountant, it's to be a senior manager, a senior leader, and drive a business forward. And we need to get that message. It is as sexy as Google and Intel and all these places as well. So that's a job of work for us to do. But for now, our focus is on driving FLP.
Yes, I think you made a good point there. I think changing maybe what the profession looks like in terms of what a traditional accountant maybe was 20, 30 years ago is very different now. It's project management, it's data analytics, and making it more attractive and sexier, as you say, for the whole industry. Fiona, you mentioned in your presentation like sustainability, artificial intelligence, and the 4 key trends. Is there anything else big coming down the line that we need to know about?
Well, I think that obviously the framework is going to keep evolving, and with it, then the actual exam syllabus. And I think obviously the institutes are going to be looking to continue to embrace the digital technologies to stay competitive. I think that as I say, the framework's going to be based on feedback from industry trends and emerging challenges. So I think it's really important that the universities remain in dialogue with CIMA in Ireland. I think that is for me, that's key. You know, you've got all sorts of different things that will happen and are happening even as we speak. And it would be nice to be able to share that information going forward. So yeah, I think whatever's coming down the track, that would be my key message today. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for that comment. And then we go to Peter, maybe perhaps next. What advice would you give graduates considering a role in the area of accounting and finance?
That's an interesting question. I think one piece of advice I would give is trying to gain relevant experience, whether this could be an internship, it could be volunteering or a part-time role, just to get a flavor of what the industry is like. I'd also say try and do some networking to talk to people who are in the field themselves and gauge whether this is an area they'd like to get into. I've often had people reaching out to me from my previous university asking what is consulting, and I think a lot of people ask that question, but yeah, so it was an interesting one, but it's just giving a bit of background to see if that's something that you'd be interested in. And I think the final thing to really nail home is, I think for any graduate, I think it's very important to have a growth mindset. At the moment, like as previously mentioned, the accounting and finance industry is changing so much, especially with digital disruption, what was mentioned and all the questions in terms of automation, generative AI, and everything, and that's only going to increase and speed up. So I think having a growth mindset and having that mentality is a very important thing if you want to move into this industry.
Great, thank you, Peter.
And
Claire, sorry, Kieran, yeah.
Michael, just come in on that as well, is that, and we have offered this as well, and again through Fiona's good offices, a lot of our members have agreed that they would volunteer to go into classes if required by lecturers, just to share some of those real life experiences about, like what Peter and Claire were saying, like what the job really is nowadays, how it's changed, you know, what the challenges are, and the opportunities that you have. And I think, you know, if any of your members there would like to get Fiona to this, it would be, I think it would add to the class to sort of bring what they're learning maybe into the real world and to understand then what the challenges are and then what the opportunities are as well. Thanks, Michael.
Excellent, thank you for that. So Claire, I'll leave the last word from the panel to yourself then. A similar question. What closing advice would you give to graduates?
I would say definitely understand the industry. So like do your research into the accounting and finance industry to understand like the various roles that are available and the sectors like public accounting or corporate finance or investment banking. So definitely look into that before you choose a career path. Also, I would advise them to stay informed, so keep up to date with industry news, trends and regulatory changes by, for example, reading like financial publications or following thought leadership articles, or joining like relevant online forums. And then finally, I think it's really important to gain that practical experience. So I would encourage them to seek internships, part-time jobs in accounting, gain that real hands-on finance experience, to understand the practical experience in the jobs. And just to echo what Peter said, a lot of people say, what do you do? Like, what is your job? Like, what is your day-to-day? Getting that experience whenever you're in university will show you, God, I really would love this to be my career, or it's not for me. And then you can choose another aspect of accounting and finance in the sector to get into. So definitely gain that practical experience.
Great, thank you for that. So thanks to all our panelist members. I think it's been a very interesting conversation, and it's great to hear what CIMA are doing to evolve and keep up with the challenges that the industry is throwing at us. And then from an employer perspective, both Peter and Claire, thank you very much for giving your insights. So it's been a very good event, and I thank you all for your time on behalf of IAFA and our members. I'd like to thank all our attendees and to let them know that a recording will be available after the event, and any of resources they require, particularly maybe reach out to Fiona in that respect. So thanks very much on my behalf, and I'll hand you back to Jean to close our event.
Brilliant. Thank you, Michael. And on behalf of CIMA Ireland, obviously, I'd like to thank you for your informative and interesting discussion. Kieran, Fiona, Peter and Claire, and Michael, obviously, for your contribution and management of the webinar. We really appreciate your time. Before we do leave this morning, I'd like to draw your attention, please, to our upcoming CPD webinar scheduled for Thursday, the 23rd of May, where one of your fellow members, Adrian Cronin, will be discussing Gen AI, as discussed today a lot, what it can do for you today and tomorrow. So scan the QR code now to register, and we'd love to have you join us then. Thank you once again for attending. As Michael said, we'll be sending the recording and the presentations along with the details of the business game, etc., that Fiona has been speaking about earlier. So thank you all. Stay safe. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.